And the aim is for us to do 5,583 minutes of exercise inside 24 hours. That number is significant because in 2021, 5,583 people in England and Wales lost their lives to suicide, and one of them was my son, Will's brother, George. My aim is to do 12 3-minute rounds every hour, but that will be around 860 something minutes. So that's a long way short of the 5,000 that we need to get to. So we want people to come along who have no boxing experience, or perhaps box amateur gyms, doesn't matter, whatever level of boxing experience you've got, come along, punch a bag for 1 round of 3 minutes, or 10 rounds of, which would be 30 minutes, and then that will go towards our total. So it's the minutes of exercise that people complete that goes towards our target of 5,583 minutes. I knew in the March after George had died, that I didn't know how to cope with missing him. I didn't have a clue. And I was having all kinds of thoughts of, you know, what's the point? And Will and Caroline are the point now. They're what up here kept me going, kept me alive. Because there's no, you know, like Will said, Will got kind of, and we've spoken about it over the last 18 months, Will knew that one day George wasn't going to come home. Whereas as a parent, you look at everything as a kind of, it's a growing up process, it's kind of, you'll drive your way through it, and you'll be positive, and you know, all these things that you do because you somehow kind of muddle your way through it. So I kind of figured that George would do that. And a month before he actually did die, he'd attempted to take his own life, and we had a very open chat as soon as he came in, and he was upset and he was saying, why me, and I promised him, I said, don't worry, I said, everything will be fine, I promise you. And that took me a long time to deal with that. The fact that I hadn't been able to fulfill that promise to him. That was the stick that kept beating me. I wasn't even beating myself with it, it was just a constant battering rod of just hitting me, battering me down and down and down. And then I found a charity called Mentell, and I signed up on a Wednesday or Thursday evening, and the following Monday I was sat in circle, able to talk about everything that was weighing me down, without really knowing that it was going to be beneficial. Men notoriously do not speak, do they? I always contradict myself, because George did talk to us, and he did talk to his counsellors, and he's talked to a private therapist very briefly just before he died. So he did all the things that we tell people to do. It wasn't enough for him. It wasn't enough for his thunderstorms that he struggled with. I knew I needed to talk. I knew I needed to go somewhere. And I'd never really understood the benefit of talking to people who aren't your family. But going to Mentell, it just all came out. Everything, absolutely everything. All to do with George, because that was the biggest weight at that time. A circle is split into 2 halves, and each half is about 50 minutes long. And I took up the first 40. The hardest thing is living without George. Yeah. That's the hardest thing. Someone said to me, is it the hardest thing you'll ever do? I was like, no, living without a son is the hardest thing we'll ever do. This is a walk in the park.